applications. You guys are going to learn how to analyze different financial situations and what I hope will better your future decisions, okay? Because everything we're talking about is going to apply to you sooner rather than later, okay? You guys are about to be seniors. You're about to go to college. You are about to hit that pinnacle point of debt, okay? So you need to kind of be aware of the decisions that you make concerning your money.
Going to your military.
All right. So here we go. At the end of the day, people need to either invest or borrow money. Okay, there's two different types of people out there. To be honest, majority of the population are people who borrow money. There's a small percentage of those who invest their money because they have that to do. Like they have the wealth to be able to invest. Okay? So I'm going to be talking about the people who borrow the money though. All right? So when money is lent out, when money is basically given to you, the person who is lending you the money is known as the lender. Okay? So when like Sally Mae, Department of Education, they would be your lenders if you ever take out a student loan. Question.
Loan sharks as well, right?
Loan sharks as well. I'm trying to think. Like if you take a loan out for like a mortgage at a bank, right? SunTrust, Bank of America, they would be your lenders. Okay. And then of course the person receiving the money is known as the borrower, i.e., you. Okay. Now, the amount of money that you borrow on that particular day when you set up the contract and you sign your life away is called the principal. Okay, the principal represents that initial amount that you borrow. And I've never known a lender to not charge interest on the money that you borrow. They might try to swindle you in and say, you know, the first 6 months, if you pay back this money, you have zero interest. Okay? But usually, especially for like student loans and things like that, that interest is hitting day one that money is deposited into your account. Okay? And that fee is called interest. That fee represents the cost of you using that person's money. Okay? That's what interest is. Because it ain't free to borrow money. Any questions so far? All right. So, the borrower must, that's capital, must repay the principal borrowed plus any interest for using that money. Okay? So if you think, okay, I'm just going to borrow this $5,000, I'm just going to give you $5,000 back. No, you're going to pay that $5,000 plus interest, okay? The rate in which interest is charged is called your interest rate. It is a percentage, and it is the most important factor. That's in capital letters because I'm telling you, it's the most important factor when you are making the decision of who to borrow money from, okay? That is the most important factor. It's the same type of thing when you get a credit card and your APR, okay? That's your annual percentage rate. How much they're going to charge you based off of how much you spend on this credit card. Because you know a credit card is nothing but borrowed money, right? The company gives you a limit. You can borrow up to that much, but you better believe you're going to pay them back in interest, okay? Anybody have a credit card in here? Be wise when you make the decision to get one, okay? I can't say don't get one because that's how you build credit. And I feel like it's a sad game, okay? Because at the end of the day, you can't get a house unless you have good credit. Well, the only way to get good credit is if you get a credit card or you get other things in your name. It's a sad cycle that we live in, but it's the world, okay? All right, the total amount of interest charged depends on the principal, the length of time that you had this money, and of course the interest rate. All those things come into play. All those things come into play. Now, there is such a thing called simple interest. Okay? Simple interest is the formula I equals, that is an I equals P times R times T. I equals P times R times T. Where I is the interest that is paid. That could be in dollars, in pounds, in francs. It kind of really just depends on the problem. Okay? But it's the interest that's paid. P, of course, represents your principal amount. What is principal again?
Initial.
It's that initial amount that you borrow from that lender. R is your rate. In this particular formula, R is your R is a decimal. So whatever the interest rate is, you convert it to a decimal and you plug it into the formula. And of course, T is your time in years. So if it's not given in years, you have to convert it to years. So 9 months would be how much of a year?
No. 3.
3/4. So then you do 0.75 to represent 9 months. Not 9, but 0.75. Question?
So on homework, when it said 20 months, would you use 24 divided by 20?
No, for that particular problem, since everything was in terms of months, like every calculation, the initial amount, everything like that, you still would use the 20. Yeah.
Interest will always be in years. It won't be like monthly interest.
Now, a lot of times it will be in years. Simple interest is a foreign, not used often concept. Okay, because simple interest is basically you are just paying interest on what you originally borrowed only. The truth of the matter is that everybody else in the world uses compound interest. Okay, compound interest is when you're getting interest on top of interest on top of interest. So the longer you have this money out, you're going to continue to pay more because it's going to be on top of like those additional amounts of money that you owe. So this formula is in your reference booklet. Simple interest is not in your reference booklet, but compound interest is. FV represents the future value, the final value. PV represents the present value, the initial amount, how much you originally borrow. R is your rate. Make a note for this particular formula and how it's given to you in your formula booklet. You write down it as a percentage, not a decimal. Okay? That R is the actual percentage. That rate is the actual percentage rate.
Wait, next to all, you write any
Yes, it does need, like when you plug it into the formula, it needs to stay as the percentage. Don't convert it to a decimal. Because as you can see in the formula, you're dividing it by K times 100. That 100 is what converts that percentage to a decimal. So you just plug it in as the percentage number. K represents your number of compounding periods per year, and N, of course, represents your number of years.
So future value is like how much you paid with the interest plus how much you have to pay back.
Exactly. So, compounding periods, okay? Let's say you have a savings account at a bank. When you get interest, they usually do it on a monthly basis. Okay, depending on how much you have in your account at that time, they'll give you a particular percentage every month as interest to go towards your savings account. Savings accounts interest rates are very, very low. I'm talking about like 0.01%. At least that's how it is in my bank. Okay. Anybody have a savings? Anybody have a savings account? Do you know what your interest rate is?
I think mine's like 0.03.
Yeah, it's low. People ain't trying to give you money for saving your money. But trust and believe, they will charge you 4.96% when you go and buy a car and you're trying to make those payments. They'll increase that easily. Yeah. Your credit card, standard base interest rate is 18.9% a month. Actually, that's not a month. It's actually compounded daily. So that's another thing you got to look at. Okay? So let's talk about your compounding periods. Okay? For this class alone, you'll have annually, so an annual compounding period. You'll have semi-annually or biannually. You'll have quarterly, and you'll have monthly. You won't have to worry about anything outside of those different types of compounding periods. Okay, but there is such a thing as weekly and daily. Okay? Annually corresponds to what number, you think? 1. That means you're getting charged interest one time a year. Semi-annually, 2, aka biannually, so 2 times a year you'll get that interest charged. Quarterly, there are 4 quarters in a year, so basically at every turn of the season, even though we don't have seasons here, the turn of the season you'll get interest charged, and then of course monthly, which is your most common. Banks, credit, student loans, all that type of stuff. Okay? Questions? Let's run some hypotheticals. Okay? Petra invests 6,000 Costa Rican colones in a bank offering 4% interest compounded annually. She's actually saving her money. She's trying to increase her money, not touch it or anything like that. Okay? We want to calculate the amount of money she has after 8 years. Now, this is always a good time to say this. You'll know whether you're using simple interest or compound interest because it will say one of those two words, simple or compound. So try to use simple interest when it doesn't say anything about simple anywhere. Okay? And it will say compounded if you're dealing with compound interest. Okay? If not, then it's just a geometric sequence, like some of the problems that you guys are dealing with last time. So the amount of money she has after 8 years, 8 represents which variable in that formula? It's your time, so that's N, right? This 4% represents what? So that's my R, and the 6,000 represents your present value. That's how much she originally puts in her bank. Now, if I'm looking for the amount of money she has after 8 years, which part of that formula am I looking for? Your future value. So, for part A, I'm looking for my future value. My present value is 6,000. Then it's 1 plus my rate, which I'm going to put in 4. Leave it as the percentage. All over K times 100. What is K in this problem? A little louder? It is 1. It says it's being compounded annually. Annually corresponds to 1. So that's going to be 1 times 100, all raised to the K times N power, which we know is 8. Oh yeah, this is just a dot. Yeah, that's just a dot. So we go and we type this into our calculator to get our answer. So after investing 6,000 cologne at 4% for 8 years, getting interest 1 time a year, how much money is she gonna have? 8211.41. 8211.41. Good. So that's not bad. Without touching her money, she already put in 6,000. Now, granted, I don't know how much a Costa Rican money is worth in like American dollars, but I mean that's a good amount of increase. Okay. But now she probably makes the mistake and she withdraws her money and places it in another bank that offers 4% interest per annum compounded monthly. This right here, don't let that confuse you. It's just letting it know that this happens every year. That's all that means. It happens every year. Compounded monthly. Now we're changing our K to what number? 12. Okay? Our interest rate is still 4, but this time how much money is she putting into this account?
All.
She's putting all of it. So she's putting in that 8211.41 number. Okay? And as much as I hate to say this, I probably wouldn't round that number because it's still in my calculator, and I'll just use that. But we already know that if she cashes out, they're going to give her the cents at 41. So, am I still looking for future value? Yes. So, 8211.41, 1 plus 4 over what? 12 times 100 raised to the 12 times, because we're looking for how much she has after 5 years. So we'll type that in and see how much she gets now at this new bank. Okay, how much?
10,026.1.
One. Okay. 1026.10. I'm sorry.
0.11 if you round it.
Okay.
Wait, is it 0.11?
Oh yeah, 0.11.
It's 0.11?
I did work on my bad.
Guess you should carry.
Yes, I should.
Okay. All right. So she increases still a good amount of money. Okay, but that is how it works. Okay, that's how money is calculated. Okay, with this interest and everything. Let's look at another problem. Okay, a man invests 4,000 Malaysian ringgits in a bank offering an interest rate of 5% PA compounded quarterly. Calculate the amount of money he has in his bank after 6 years. Okay, 6 years. I'm still looking for what What variable?
Future value.
Future value. So future value equals 4,000. 1 plus what? Over. 4 times 100. Raised to the 4 times 6 power. Let's see how much money he's getting at this particular bank. Little less amount, higher interest rate, and a more consistent compounding period per annum. So this happens every year during his 6 years. How much?
5, 3, 8, 9, 4, 8.
40? Yes? Okay? Yeah. Not bad. But let's say he really wants to try to figure out, okay, like how long do I have to invest my money for it to double? So, which variable am I looking for now? I'm looking for my time now, which is the variable N. What is my future value? It's going to be the 8,000. Because he's still investing that 4,000 in his account. He's trying to figure out how long it's going to take for him to double that amount of money. So my rate is still the same. My compounding period hasn't changed. It's just my time is now my variable. How do I solve that?
Put it in the graph.
You put it in the graph and see where they intersect.
Last year, did you use the law?
We did use laws. We haven't gotten there yet, so I'm trying to get y'all comfortable with the calculator. So when we type this into our calculator, we know y1, y2. It's basically a line intersecting with an exponential curve. So again, we don't do any type of calculator notation. We just show it graphically that this is basically what we're looking for, where that exponential intersects with that line, and you get N is about 13.9. So 13.9 years. That's a long time to have to wait for your money to double. Yes?
I just put like years or like cats or stuff like that on homework. How do you get
There is a unit penalty that you could lose, just like how there's a rounding penalty that you can use. So make sure you include your units. Okay? How is this so far?
Pretty good.
Now, real quick, when it comes to about the whole money doubling thing, let's say you're not given an initial amount. They just give you the rate. They give you the rate. They give you the compounding periods. Okay, and they ask you how long does it take for an amount to double. You don't have to know an initial amount to know how much it's going to be when it doubles. Okay. Anytime you're ever presented with a situation where you're not given the initial amount and asks you to double or triple, you can make up your own number. You really can. Because at the end of the day, if I wanted to simplify this out, the only thing I would be able to do would be to divide both sides by 4,000. And what's 8,000 divided by 4,000? 2. Even if the initial amount was 1 ringgit. Okay? When I double it gives me 2. Well, what 2 divided by 1 is 2. No matter what, it's always going to give you 2. So if they don't give you an initial amount, you can make up your own if you have to have a number there, or you can just say 2 equals the part that's in the parentheses.
So whenever it says after 13.9 years, that would be how much money he owes in total.
No, that's how much he'll have, because this is he's investing here. So this is how much he'll have in his bank after 13.9 years.
Okay.
Now I can easily change this word and says that he borrows this much from the bank, and then that's how long it's going to take him to pay back $8,000.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? But this right here is an investment. We're going to get to somewhere where people are buying things.
Will we ever go into stock market where it's like all shifting and stuff?
Mm-mm. No stock markets. No stock markets. There is an app inside of your calculator that will allow you to determine a lot of these different compound interest problems. It's called your TMV Solver, which stands for Time Value of Money. It is used for more complicated financial models. You can also use it for these simple problems that we've done in your notes. Okay? Of course, N represents your number of compounding periods. I is your interest rate. Okay? PV is your present value. The one thing that you need to note here, mind you, these are the same variables that you had before. These are the same variables that you had before. The one thing that's different is your PV. It needs to be entered as a negative number. Okay, it needs to be entered as a negative number. PMT stands for payment in each time period. You usually keep that as a 0. You should keep that as a 0 because it's not like you're making any payments. You usually say, if a person's making payments every month, then you would change that, but it would be within the problem if you knew the person was making payments or not. FV stands for future value, of course. It will be positive if the present value is negative. That's why you type in the present value as a negative number. If you don't, then your future value is going to come out negative, which should just let you know that, oh snap, I typed in my present value wrong, but it's fine. You just know that it needs to be a positive number. P/Y basically stands for number of payments per year. C/Y is the number of compounding periods per year. Okay. And then the very last line is going to be a payment in beginning. This is basically where you can choose between payments at the end of the time period, which is the most common, or at the beginning of the time period, which is less common. Okay. This is exactly what your calculator screen will look like when you go in and do this in your calculator. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to do the Petra example using the financial solver. We're going to do the Petra example using the financial solver since we already did it by hand. We can confirm our numbers. Okay? Alright, so let's use this doing the Petra example. Okay, so I'm going to go back, pull that one up. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's do part B. Okay, let's do part B. So, in our calculator, we are going to go to apps, and we're going to go to finance. Okay, apps and finance is where all this stuff is located. And as you can see, it's the TMV Solver. So when you click that, there are all those options that were on the screen before. Okay, remember, N represents what? Number of compounding periods, okay? Now, this you have to take into account in the entire life of this investment or whatever, okay? So, from the problem, it was being compounded how? How is it being compounded? But it's compounded monthly, so that's 12. For how long?
5 years.
So, to figure out your number of compounding periods, you multiply them together. So it's going to be 12 times 5, and you can literally just do 12 times 5, and it will produce the number for you. Okay? You press apps, finance, and the TM Solver. I represented what?
5.
Your interest rate, which was
Oh, but we did 4.
4. We're doing Petra. So it was 4. Now PV stood for what? Your present value, which was actually that 821141 number that you guys came up with. But how do you type it in? As a negative number. That way your future value can be positive. So negative 2188.41. Leave your payment at 0. Future value is what I'm looking for. You leave that at 0. All right. Now, P/Y stands for what? Your number of payments per year. Okay? Since this is being done monthly, compounded monthly, your payments per year and your compounding periods per year is both going to be 12. So 12 here, and as you see, it automatically changes when you go to the next one. Okay? And then the payment is going to be at the end of the year. It doesn't specify end or beginning, so we'll just leave it at the end. Now, what am I looking for in this problem? Future value. So what you do is you go back up to future value, because that's what I'm looking for. You hover over the future value, and what you want to do is you want to press the alpha button and then you want to press the enter button. As you can see above the enter button is the word solve. When you do alpha enter, it gives you the future value. Wasn't that what we got?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay? Good job. So, y'all got 11, not 10, so I don't know what happened there. Let's look at Ahmed. Okay, let's do part B, because we're trying to figure out how long it takes for his money to double. Okay, you can even use it when you're looking for something other than future value. Okay, so let's reset. Okay, what did N represent?
Number of compounding periods.
For the entire life of the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know N, so that's going to be what we're solving for. That's going to be what we're solving for, okay?
Yeah.
So we got to, well, we actually leave it at 60, but we can change the 0. It's fine. What about I? 5. Future, present value?
4,000. Negative 4,000.
So I'm going to type in negative 4,000. If you notice, I'm not pressing clear. I'm just starting to type. It overrides it. Payments, I leave at 0. Future value is what?
8,000.
8,000. So I'm trying to see when it doubles. But what were my payments per year, compounding periods per year? Quarterly. So that means it's going to be the number 4. And again, as you can see, it automatically changes your compounding periods per year. So now that I have everything in there, I am looking for my number of years it took for me to double. So I have to go back up to N. I have to be on the line of whatever it is I'm trying to solve for before I go and press what 2 buttons? Alpha, enter to solve. Okay? Now you may be like, wait, it wasn't 55 years. Remember, that N represents your compounding periods times your years. So what am I going to have to do to that number?
Divide by 4.
Divided by 4 because it was being compounded quarterly. So you write down that number. So 55, 55,
You
7,
can just go to the end and divide by 4.
Is there a copy
Is it gonna?
It'll divide
It
out.
will do.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, nice. So let's go to the end. Divided by 4.
Yep.
And there you go. That's what you got, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Big song.
Isn't there like a copy and paste button?
I don't know what it is, but there actually is.
So like
There
it'd be so
There
much
is.
more convenient.
not when it's in an actual program. Like we're in a program right now, so there's nothing I'm gonna be able to copy from a program and bring it to somewhere else without especially the financial ones. But this is how you can use your financial solver to do these problems. You could also just do this by hand. Okay, so you have the luxury of both.
For the IB exam, do we have to do this by hand to get the things?
If you do, this is actually one of the only things they'll actually let you write down. Like you would have to write down literally your entire screen and write what you typed in to do this. This is like the only thing that I've ever seen them accept calculator.
So that's more time consuming.
It is more time consuming in my opinion. I mean, because you just plug into a formula for half of these problems. But